I won a $26 million settlement in a class action lawsuit, and my son organized a celebratory cruise on a yacht he had chartered. When I went down to the lower deck to rest, the captain suddenly appeared, completely in a panic, and what he told me terrified me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. I stood on the polished deck of the Silver Meridian, watching the Massachusetts coastline shrink into a ribbon of green and gray. The June sun blazed overhead, almost blinding against the white fiberglass hull. At 64 years old, I'd seen my share of beautiful days, but this one felt different. This one felt like the beginning of something I couldn't yet name. "Mom, you're going to love this," my son Derek called from the upper deck, his voice carrying that forced enthusiasm I'd learned to recognize over the past few months. Best way to celebrate your big win. $26 million. That's what the settlement had come to, after 8 years of fighting Mercor Pharmaceuticals in a class action lawsuit. 8 years of depositions, medical examinations, and watching other plaintiffs, people who'd become friends, lose their battles with the very illness the company's contaminated product had caused. I was one of the lucky ones. I'd survived, and now I had money I'd never dreamed of possessing. The yacht had been Derek's idea. A family celebration, he'd called it. Just you, me, and Margot. We need to mark this moment properly, Mom. You deserve it. Margot, my daughter-in-law of 3 years, emerged from the cabin in a white linen dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension used to be. She smiled at me, but it didn't reach her eyes. It never did. "Joanna, you should have some champagne," she said, holding out a flute. "We're celebrating after all." I accepted the glass but didn't drink. Old habits from my nursing days: never accept anything you haven't poured yourself when something feels off. And everything about this trip felt off. The yacht was excessive. Derek worked in commercial real estate, did well enough, but this vessel had to cost $15,000 for the day, maybe more. The captain, a weathered man in his 50s named Benjamin Price, handled the craft with professional precision, but I'd caught him watching my son with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I think I'll go down to the cabin and rest for a bit," I said, setting the champagne on a nearby table. "The sun's a bit much." "Of course, Mom." Derek's smile was quick, almost relieved. "You take your time. We'll be heading farther out soon. The best views are about 10 miles offshore." 10 miles. The number lodged in my brain like a splinter. I made my way down the narrow steps to the lower deck, grateful for the shade and cooler air. The cabin was luxurious. Teak wood panels, plush seating, a small bar stocked with top-shelf liquor. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands trembling slightly. Not from age or weakness, but from the instinct that had kept me alive through 40 years of nursing in Boston's roughest neighborhoods. Something was wrong. I'd felt it building for weeks. The way Derek had suddenly become attentive after years of monthly phone calls and obligatory holiday visits. The way Margot had started asking detailed questions about my will, my investment plans, my intentions for the money. The way they'd both discouraged me from hiring the financial advisor my lawyer had recommended. "Family should handle family money, Mom," Derek had said. "We don't need strangers getting involved." A soft knock startled me. Captain Price stood in the doorway, his weathered face serious. "Madam, forgive the intrusion," he said quietly, glancing back toward the stairs. "But I need to speak with you. Privately." My heart rate picked up. "What is it?" He stepped inside, closing the door most of the way. "I overheard your son on the phone earlier, before you arrived. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the acoustics on these vessels—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. He was discussing the distance from shore. Specifically, how far out we'd be when you accidentally fell into the water. The cabin seemed to tilt, though the sea was calm. "What exactly did he say?" He asked someone, I assume his wife based on the conversation, whether 12 miles was far enough, whether the current would carry, well, whether you'd be found. Captain Price's jaw tightened. "I've been sailing these waters for 30 years, Mrs. Hartwell. I know the difference between nervous conversation and planning." I sat very still, processing this information with the same clinical detachment I'd once used in emergency rooms. Panic helped no one. Facts and planning saved lives. Why are you telling me this? Because I lost my mother 2 years ago, he said simply. And because I won't be party to murder no matter how much I'm being paid. Murder. The word hung between us like smoke. Does Derek know you heard him? No, ma'am. He thinks I'm just the hired help. Invisible. There was bitterness in his voice. They've been talking freely around me all morning. I stood, my mind already working through possibilities. How long until we're 12 miles out? At current speed? About 40 minutes. 40 minutes to plan. 40 minutes to turn the trap around. Captain Price, do you have your cell phone with you? Yes, ma'am, though service gets spotty once we're past 5 miles. I need you to do something for me. Something that might seem strange. He nodded. I'm listening. I outlined my plan in quick, precise terms. Years of nursing had taught me to think clearly under pressure, to anticipate complications, to prepare for every contingency. Captain Price's eyes widened, then a slow smile crossed his face. That's brilliant, ma'am, but risky. Everything worth doing is risky, I said. Can you do it? Yes. But you need to know, if this goes wrong, it won't. I surprised myself with the certainty in my voice. I've spent my whole life taking care of other people, Captain. My patients, my late husband, my son. I'm done being the person everyone thinks they can use. He left to make the necessary calls, and I sat back down, my hands no longer trembling. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Clarity. The evidence had been accumulating for months, really. Derek's sudden interest in my health, his insistence that I update my will just to be safe. Margot's questions about whether I'd named any charities or organizations as beneficiaries. It's so important to keep wealth in the family, Joanna, she'd said over lunch 3 weeks ago. Strangers can't appreciate what you've built, what I'd built. As if surviving poisoning and fighting a corporation was building wealth rather than claiming what was owed. I heard footsteps above, Derek's and Margot's voices carrying through the thin walls. They were laughing about something, the sound bright and carefree. Planning my death must have put them in good spirits. Captain Price appeared again, giving me a subtle nod. The calls were made. The Coast Guard had been contacted, not with accusations, but with a concerned report about a passenger with a heart condition who might need assistance. They'd intercept us at 3 miles offshore. Standard protocol for medical precautions. Your son just asked me to prepare the swimming platform, Captain Price said quietly. He says you mentioned wanting to take a dip. Did I? I smiled. How thoughtful of him to remember. What do you want me to do? Exactly what he asked. Prepare the platform. Make everything look normal. I stood, checking my reflection in the small mirror. I looked every bit the aging mother, tired and overwhelmed by sudden wealth. Perfect. Derek appeared at the cabin door, his handsome face arranged in an expression of filial concern. Mom, you okay down here? You've been resting a while. Just catching my breath, sweetheart. The excitement of everything. I was thinking, since it's so beautiful out, maybe we could take a swim. I had Captain Price set up the platform. The water's supposed to be perfect this time of year. I let myself look uncertain. I don't know, Derek. It's been years since I've swum in open water. That's why I'll be right there with you. He took my hand, squeezing gently. His grip was firm, almost too firm. We'll be safe. I promise. The word promise from his mouth felt like a knife wrapped in silk. Well, I said slowly, if you think it's safe, absolutely safe, Mom. His smile broadened. Trust me. Trust. Another word that had lost all meaning. I followed him up to the deck, where Margot waited with towels and a smile that didn't match her eyes. The yacht had slowed, drifting now in the gentle swells. Captain Price stood at the helm, his face carefully neutral. The swimming platform at the stern was extended, steps leading down into the crystalline water. It looked inviting, peaceful. From here, the shore was a distant smudge on the horizon. We were approximately 3 miles out. I could tell by the landmarks I'd studied on the nautical charts Captain Price had shown me. Right on schedule. It really is beautiful, I said, letting a tremor enter my voice. But I'm feeling a bit nervous. Don't be. Derek's hand settled on my back, gentle but with pressure behind it. I've got you, Mom. I'll always take care of you. The irony was almost too much. I heard it then, the sound of a powerful engine approaching. The Coast Guard cutter appeared around the northern point, white with its distinctive orange stripe. Captain Price had timed it perfectly. Derek's hand on my back stiffened. "What the—" "Oh, thank goodness," I said loudly, my voice carrying across the water. Captain Price said he'd called them as a precaution. With my heart condition and being so far from shore, it seemed wise. I watched my son's face go through a rapid series of changes. Confusion, anger, calculation. Margot had gone pale. "Your heart condition?" Derek said carefully. "Mom, you don't have a heart condition, don't I?" I looked at him directly, letting him see something new in my eyes. Something that wasn't the passive, grateful mother he'd grown used to. Funny. I could have sworn I mentioned it. All this stress with the lawsuit, the settlement, the sudden attention from family I barely heard from in years. The Coast Guard cutter pulled alongside, and 2 officers appeared at the rail. "Everyone okay here?" the senior officer called. "We're fine," Captain Price called back. "Just wanted to make sure, given Mrs. Hartwell's recent health concerns." "Much appreciated, Captain. We'll escort you back, just to be safe." I smiled at Derek, at Margot, at the elaborate trap that had just transformed into their cage. Isn't that wonderful? Now I won't have to worry about swimming after all. Derek's jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. "Mom, this really wasn't necessary." "Oh, but I think it was." I kept my voice light, almost casual. After all, accidents happen so easily out here. People fall overboard all the time, don't they? Especially older people who might be unsteady on their feet. The color drained from his face. He knew. In that moment, he knew that I knew. "I think I'll go back down to the cabin," I said pleasantly. "The excitement has tired me out. Captain Price, please take us back to harbor. I find I'm not in the mood for celebration after all." As I descended the stairs, I heard Margot's urgent whisper. What just happened? What happened was simple. The prey had become the hunter. The victim had become the strategist. And the loving son who'd planned to inherit $26 million had just discovered that his elderly mother was not the easy target he'd imagined. But this was only the beginning. I had 40 minutes back to shore to plan my next move, and unlike Derek, I knew how to be patient. After all, good things and perfect justice come to those who wait. The ride back to harbor took 35 minutes of excruciating silence. Derek and Margot stayed on the upper deck, their hushed conversation occasionally rising loud enough for me to catch fragments. "Can't prove anything. Just paranoid. We need to be smarter." I sat in the lower cabin with Captain Price's business card in my hand and my phone pressed to my ear, speaking quietly to my lawyer, Martin Greschner. "Joanna, what you're describing is serious," Martin said, his Brooklyn accent thickening with concern. "But without hard evidence, without a recording or witness testimony, it's your word against theirs. I have Captain Price." He heard Derek on the phone. Hearsay. Any decent attorney would shred it in court. Papers rustled on his end. "Listen, the settlement money hasn't been distributed yet. It's still in escrow pending final documentation. We can add protections, a trust, specific distribution requirements, guardianship clauses if you're incapacitated. How long will that take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. I'll need to draft new documents, file them properly." He paused. "Joanna, are you safe right now? Do you need me to contact the police?" I watched the Boston Harbor skyline grow closer. "Not yet. I need to be smart about this, Martin. If I make accusations without proof, I look like an unstable elderly woman. They'll use it against me, claim I'm not competent to handle the settlement." "That's exactly what they'll do," he agreed grimly, "especially if they've been planning this. They might already have a doctor lined up, psychiatric evaluations prepared. It's a common strategy when large estates are involved." My stomach clenched. Of course they would. Derek had always been thorough. "Martin, I need you to do something else. Quietly investigate my son's finances. I want to know everything. Debts, investments, business dealings. Can you do that without alerting him? I have a private investigator I trust. It'll take a few days. Do it. And Martin, don't tell anyone about this conversation. Not your secretary, not your partners. No one. Understood." But Joanna, be careful. If they were willing to plan what you're suggesting, they're desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. The yacht docked with a gentle bump. Through the cabin window, I saw Derek helping Margot onto the pier, his face a mask of concern as he looked back toward the boat. Performance for the dock workers, I realized. The dutiful son worried about his aging mother. I climbed the stairs slowly, letting them see me as fragile. Captain Price offered his hand, and I took it gratefully. "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything. Stay safe, Mrs. Hartwell." His eyes flicked toward Derek. "And watch your back." Derek was all solicitous attention as we walked to the parking lot. "Mom, I'm so sorry the trip got cut short. Maybe your doctor should check that heart condition." "I don't have a heart condition, Derek." I stopped, looking at him directly. I said that to explain why the Coast Guard was called. I was feeling anxious, that's all. His expression flickered. Anxious about what? Being so far from shore, the water, everything. I softened my voice deliberately. "Sweetheart, I know you meant well with the yacht, but it was too much, too overwhelming. I think I just need some quiet time to process everything that's happened." Margot linked her arm through Derek's. "Of course, Joanna. This has all been so stressful for you. Maybe you should stay with us for a few days. We could take care of you." "No." The word came out sharper than intended. I gentled my tone. "Thank you, but I need to be in my own space, my own home." My home, a modest 3-bedroom house in Brookline that I'd shared with my late husband Robert until his death 5 years ago. It was nothing special, but it was mine, and right now it felt like the only safe place in the world. Derek's jaw tightened. "Mom, I really think you shouldn't be alone." "I'll be fine. I've been alone for 5 years, Derek. I know how to manage." The drive back to Brookline was tense. Derek insisted on driving me, with Margot following in their car. A new Mercedes I now suspected was purchased on credit, anticipating my settlement money. I watched familiar streets roll past, my mind cataloging every detail of their behavior, every slip in their performance. When we reached my house, Derek walked me to the door. "Mom, about what happened on the boat." "Nothing happened on the boat, sweetheart. We went for a nice ride. The Coast Guard checked on us. We came home. That's all." He studied my face, trying to read whether I suspected anything. I gave him nothing but a tired smile. "Call me if you need anything," he said finally. "Anything at all." "Of course, dear." I waited until both cars had driven away before I let myself inside and locked the door. Then I locked it again with the deadbolt. Then I checked every window. The house felt different now, vulnerable in ways it hadn't before. I'd raised Derek here. He knew every entrance, every hiding place where I kept spare keys. That knowledge, once comforting, now felt like a threat. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Hartwell?" A woman's voice, crisp and professional. "This is Dr. Roberta Dunn from Boston Cognitive Health Associates. Your son Derek contacted us, expressing concerns about your mental state. He's requested a competency evaluation." There it was. Faster than I'd expected. "My mental state is fine, Dr. Dunn." "I'm sure it is, but given your age and the recent stress of litigation, plus the substantial settlement you've received, it's not uncommon for family members to worry. The evaluation is quite routine." "I'm not interested. Thank you for calling." "Mrs. Hartwell, I should inform you that your son is prepared to petition the court for guardianship if you refuse voluntary evaluation. It would be much simpler if—" I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but this time with anger. The trap was tightening. Derek was moving faster than I'd anticipated, which meant he was more desperate than I'd realized. The phone call from the doctor wasn't a suggestion. It was a warning shot. I called Martin immediately. "They're trying to have me declared incompetent. A Dr. Roberta Dunn just called about a competency evaluation." "Morrison? She's expensive. Derek must be paying serious money for her services." Computer keys clicked. "She's also known for finding exactly what her clients want her to find. Joanna, this is escalating quickly. Can they force an evaluation?" "They can petition the court. You'd have to contest it, which means lawyers, appearances, testimony. It gets messy, and it all becomes public record, which makes me look unstable just by defending myself." "Exactly." More typing. I'm going to file an emergency motion to freeze any attempts at guardianship proceedings. It'll buy us time, but Joanna, you need to be very careful. Don't give them any ammunition. No erratic behavior. No confrontations. Everything by the book. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd made Derek's birthday cakes, packed his school lunches, celebrated his acceptance to college. The same kitchen where Robert and I had planned our retirement, never knowing he'd have a heart attack at 62 and leave me alone. Alone had seemed manageable then. Now it felt dangerous. A knock at the back door made me jump. Through the window, I saw my neighbor, Pat Wojcik, holding a casserole dish. Roberta was 72, sharp as a tack, and had lived next door for 20 years. I opened the door. Roberta, what a nice surprise. I saw Derek leave. Thought you might want company. She set the casserole on the counter, her famous kielbasa and pierogi dish. And before you say you're fine, I saw your face when you got out of his car. You looked like you'd seen a ghost. I should have deflected, maintained my privacy. Instead, something in Roberta's no-nonsense expression made me crumble slightly. Can I trust you with something? Something serious? Joanna, we've been neighbors for 2 decades. You think I don't know how to keep my mouth shut? I told her everything. The yacht, Captain Price's warning, the phone call from Dr. Dunn. Roberta listened without interrupting, her face growing increasingly grim. That little snake, she said when I finished. And here I thought he was just neglectful. Turns out he's much worse. I don't have proof, Roberta. Not really. Just suspicions and one witness who heard half a phone conversation. Then we get proof. She pulled out her phone. My grandson Tommy works in IT security. He's the one who helped me set up my video doorbell. He can do the same for you. Cameras, recording devices, all legal as long as it's your own property. That would help, but no buts. Tommy owes me favors, and he's discreet. She was already texting. Meanwhile, you need to document everything. Every phone call, every visit, every interaction with Derek and that wife of his. Dates, times, witnesses when possible. Martin said the same thing. Martin's smart. Listen to him. Roberta's phone buzzed. Tommy can come tomorrow morning. He'll set you up properly. The relief I felt was overwhelming. I wasn't alone after all. Roberta, I don't know how to thank you. You thank me by staying safe and outsmarting that ungrateful child of yours. She squeezed my hand. You survived corporate poisoning and 8 years of legal warfare, Joanna. You can survive this too. After she left, I sat down and started a notebook, a detailed log of everything that had happened. The yacht trip, the phone call from Dr. Dunn, Derek's behavior over the past months. Patterns emerged as I wrote, the sudden visits, the financial questions, the way he'd discouraged me from making independent decisions. How long had he been planning this? Months? Years? My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Mom, just checking in. Please call Dr. Dunn back. It would make me feel better knowing you're getting proper care. Proper care. As if I were already incompetent, already someone who needed managing. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and started researching. Guardianship laws in Massachusetts, financial exploitation of elders, legal protections for settlement recipients. I read until my eyes burned, until I understood every weapon they might use against me and every defense I could mount. Around midnight, another text arrived, this time from Margot. Joanna, Derek is very worried about you. We both are. Please let us help. Family takes care of family. The words made my skin crawl. Family. They were hiding behind that word while planning to take everything from me. I screened every window, checked every lock one more time, and went to bed with my phone on the nightstand and Martin's number on speed dial. Tomorrow, Tommy would install the cameras. Tomorrow, Martin's investigator would start digging into Derek's finances. Tomorrow, I would begin building my defense. But tonight, lying in the darkness of my bedroom, I had to face a terrible truth. My own son wanted me dead, or at least erased, and I was going to have to fight him with everything I had. The question was, how far would he go before I could stop him? Tommy Wojcik arrived at 8 the next morning with a toolkit and a friendly smile that reminded me of his grandmother. He was 32, with the quiet competence of someone who solved problems for a living. "Grandma Pat told me what's going on," he said as he surveyed my house. "Don't worry, Mrs. Hartwell. We'll make sure you have eyes everywhere." Over the next 3 hours, he installed 6 discrete cameras, 1 at each entrance, 2 covering the living room and kitchen, 1 in my bedroom closet pointing at the door. He also set up audio recording capabilities in the main rooms, all controlled through an app on my phone. "Everything's encrypted and backed up to cloud storage," he explained. "Even if someone destroys the physical cameras, the footage is safe. And it's all legal. Massachusetts is a 2-party consent state for private conversations, but you can record anything happening in your own home." What if Derek notices the cameras? He won't. They're smaller than a quarter, hidden in smoke detectors and picture frames. Even if he's looking for them, they're nearly impossible to spot. Tommy pulled out his phone, showing me the live feeds. "You can access everything from here. Motion alerts, sound detection, the works." After he left, I tested the system, walking from room to room, watching myself on the phone screen. It felt strange, seeing my own home transformed into a surveillance network. But strange was better than dead. Martin called at 10. "Joanna, my investigator found something. Can I come over?" "Of course." He arrived 20 minutes later, looking grim. Martin was 68, a veteran of family law battles, and I'd never seen him this tense. "Your son is in serious financial trouble," he said, spreading documents across my kitchen table. "He owes $240,000 in business debts. His real estate company is underwater, 3 properties in foreclosure, lawsuits from investors. The Mercedes is leased, their house has a second mortgage. They're 60 days from bankruptcy." My stomach dropped. 240,000? And that's just what we've found so far. There might be more. Martin pointed to a bank statement. "Look at the dates. He started accumulating this debt around the same time the settlement was announced as likely. He's been spending against your money for over a year. He was that confident I'd give it to him? Or that you wouldn't be around to refuse?" Martin's expression was grave. "Joanna, this changes everything. This isn't just greed. It's desperation. People don't make rational decisions when they're this far underwater. What about Margot? She's got her own issues. Credit card debt, gambling problems. There's a pattern of losses at Encore Casino going back 18 months. Together, they're in a hole they can't climb out of without your money." I sat back, processing this. Derek's sudden attentiveness, the yacht, the competency evaluation, it all made horrible sense. They weren't planning for my eventual inheritance. They needed money now. "There's something else," Martin said quietly. He pulled out another document. Derek contacted an estate planning attorney 2 weeks ago, asked about expedited probate proceedings in cases of accidental death, specifically mentioned drowning accidents and how quickly assets could be accessed. The room seemed to tilt. 2 weeks ago, before the yacht trip. This wasn't opportunistic. This was premeditated. "He planned it all," I whispered. "Yes. And now that the yacht plan failed, he's switching strategies. The competency evaluation, the guardianship petition. If he can get control of your finances legally, he doesn't need you dead. Just declared incompetent." My phone buzzed. A motion alert from the front door camera. I opened the app and saw Derek standing on my porch, finger hovering over the doorbell. "He's here," I said. Martin stood. "Do you want me to stay?" "No, but keep the line open." I handed him my phone. Tommy set up audio recording. "Whatever happens, you'll hear it." Martin moved to the kitchen, out of sight but listening. I took a breath, composed myself, and opened the door. "Derek, this is unexpected." "Mom, we need to talk." His face was drawn, stressed. "Good. Can I come in?" "Of course." He followed me to the living room, his eyes scanning the space. Looking for what? Changes? Evidence that I suspected him? "Mom, about yesterday. I think we got off on the wrong foot." He sat on the couch, leaning forward earnestly. The yacht was supposed to be a celebration, but I can see now it was too much, too fast. "I'm sorry. Apology accepted. But I'm still worried about you. This settlement, this money, it's overwhelming. You're not used to dealing with this kind of wealth, and there are people out there who will try to take advantage of you." "Like who?" Financial advisors, investment managers, even lawyers. He said the last word with slight emphasis. They'll charge enormous fees, put you in risky investments. You need family looking out for you, Mom. People who actually care about your well-being. I see. That's why I think you should let me help manage the settlement, not control it, he added quickly. Just help. Make sure you're protected. Protected from what exactly? His jaw tightened. From making mistakes. Mom, you're 64 years old. You've never handled significant money. One wrong decision could cost you everything. There it was, the subtle implication that I was too old, too incompetent, too naive to manage my own affairs. Derek, I appreciate your concern, but I'm perfectly capable of handling my finances. Are you? He pulled out his phone, scrolling to something. Because I've been hearing things. Your neighbor says you've been acting paranoid, checking your locks multiple times. You hung up on Dr. Dunn. You refused to stay with us where we could keep an eye on you. Keep an eye on me? Like I'm a child? Like you're someone under enormous stress who might not be thinking clearly. His voice hardened. Mom, I don't want to do this, but if you won't accept help voluntarily, I'll have to take legal action, for your own protection. Legal action? You mean a guardianship petition? If necessary, yes. He stood, pacing. The court will appoint an independent evaluator. They'll assess your mental state, your decision-making capacity. And honestly, Mom, refusing medical evaluation, acting paranoid, isolating yourself, it's not going to look good. I remained seated, keeping my voice calm. And if I'm declared incompetent, you'd become my guardian, control all my assets. Someone has to. Better family than a stranger appointed by the court. Better for whom? His eyes flashed. What's that supposed to mean? I think you know. The air between us crackled with tension. Derek's mask was slipping, the concerned son giving way to something harder, more desperate. I know about your debts, I said quietly. The business losses, the foreclosures. $240,000, Derek. That's quite a hole to dig yourself into. His face went white. Who told you? Does it matter? The point is, I know. I know you need money urgently. I know you've been planning how to access my settlement for over a year. And I know what you discussed on that yacht with Margot. I don't know what you think you heard. 12 miles offshore. Far enough that the current would carry me away. That's what you said to her, wasn't it? I stood now, meeting his eyes. You planned to kill me, Derek. Your own mother. That's insane. But his voice wavered. You're paranoid, delusional. This just proves you need help. Captain Price heard you. He's willing to testify. Derek's expression shifted through several emotions. Fear, rage, calculation. One person's word against mine. Hearsay. No court would accept it. You're right. Which is why I've been gathering other evidence. Financial records showing your debts. Documentation of your contact with estate attorneys. A timeline of your sudden attention after the settlement was announced. I moved toward him, and he actually stepped back. You made a mistake, Derek. You underestimated me. You can't prove anything. Can't I? Or are you just hoping I can't? I smiled, and it wasn't kind. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw the competency evaluation request. You're going to stop contacting doctors and lawyers about me. And you're going to stay away from me and my money. Or what? Or I go to the police with everything I have. Attempted murder, financial exploitation, conspiracy. Even if they can't make all the charges stick, the investigation alone will destroy you. Your business, your reputation, any chance of climbing out of that debt hole. And I'll make sure Margot's gambling problems come to light too. How do you think her family will react to that? Derek's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually become violent. But then he seemed to deflate, the fight draining out of him. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice cold. You're going to regret this. Is that a threat? It's a fact. You're burning bridges, Mom. Family is all you have, and you're throwing it away over paranoid delusions. If that's true, then I'll live with the consequences. But I'll live, Derek. That's the important part. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something die in his eyes, whatever remnant of genuine feeling might have existed between us. Then he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. I waited until I heard his car pull away before my legs gave out. I sank onto the couch, shaking with adrenaline and grief. Martin emerged from the kitchen. I recorded everything. Joanna, that was incredibly brave. Or incredibly stupid. I looked up at him. He's not going to just back down, is he? No. You called his bluff, which means he's more dangerous now, not less. Martin sat beside me. But you also have leverage. The question is whether he's desperate enough to risk escalating. My phone rang. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Hartwell? A man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Detective James Riley with the Boston Police Department. I need to speak with you about a report we received concerning your son, Derek Hartwell. My blood ran cold. What kind of report? Anonymous tip. Claims you've been threatening him, making false accusations about attempted murder. Says you're experiencing some kind of mental break and might be dangerous. Derek had moved faster than I'd anticipated. He'd gone to the police first, framing me as the unstable one. Detective Riley, I can explain. I'm sure you can, ma'am, but I need you to come down to the station. Today, if possible. We need to sort this out before it escalates further. Am I being charged with something? Not at this time. But your son is concerned for his safety, and we take these matters seriously. Especially given your age and recent stress. Your age. There it was again. The implication that elderly meant unstable, unreliable, incompetent. I'll come down this afternoon, I said. With my lawyer. That's certainly your right, ma'am. After hanging up, I looked at Martin. He reported me to the police, accused me of threatening him. Martin's expression hardened. Classic Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. He's making himself the victim before you can expose him as the perpetrator. What do? We go to the police station, we present our evidence calmly and professionally, and we make sure they understand the full context. He stood, gathering his documents. Joanna, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Derek's face when I'd confronted him, the cold fury in his eyes. I thought about Margot, waiting at home, probably planning their next move. I thought about the $26 million that had transformed from a blessing into a curse. I don't have a choice, I said. If I back down now, I'm dead. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but eventually. He needs that money too badly to stop. Then we fight. But we fight smart, and we fight carefully. Martin offered his hand, helping me up. You've survived this long, Joanna. Don't let them win now. As we drove to the police station, I watched the familiar streets of Boston roll past and wondered how my life had come to this. A son who wanted me dead. A daughter-in-law who saw me as nothing more than an ATM. A legal system that might side with them simply because I was old. But I'd survived corporate poisoning. I'd survived 8 years of legal warfare. I'd survived losing Robert and rebuilding my life alone. I could survive this too. The question was, what would be left of my family when the dust settled? Detective James Riley was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that assessed me the moment Martin and I entered the interview room at the Boston Police Department's Area D4 station. His partner, Detective Anna Eshu, Detective Sarah Liang, sat across from us, her expression neutral but watchful. Mrs. Hartwell, thank you for coming in, Riley said, his tone professionally courteous. And you are? Martin Greschner, Mrs. Hartwell's attorney. I'm here to ensure this conversation remains productive and appropriate. Riley's eyebrows rose slightly. Attorney? For a simple conversation? Nothing is simple when family members make accusations, Detective, Martin said smoothly. I'm sure you understand. Riley leaned back. Mrs. Hartwell, your son Derek filed a complaint this morning. He claims you've been making threatening statements, accusing him of attempting to harm you. He says you're under significant stress from recent litigation and that your behavior has become increasingly erratic. And what do you think, Detective? I asked calmly. I think I'd like to hear your side of things. I glanced at Martin, who nodded slightly. We'd prepared for this on the drive over. Detective, 3 days ago, my son invited me on a yacht trip to celebrate my settlement in a class action lawsuit against Mercor Pharmaceuticals. The captain of that yacht overheard my son discussing, on the phone, how far offshore we'd need to be for me to accidentally drown and whether my body would be recovered. Liang's pen paused on her notepad. Riley's expression didn't change, but I saw the shift in his attention, from dismissive concern to genuine interest. "That's a serious allegation," Riley said carefully. "Do you have proof?" The captain, Benjamin Price, is willing to testify to what he heard. "I also have documentation showing that Derek contacted an estate planning attorney 2 weeks before the yacht trip, asking about expedited probate in cases of accidental drowning." Martin slid a folder across the table. "We've prepared a complete timeline, Detective. Derek Hartwell is in severe financial distress, over $200,000 in debt, facing bankruptcy. The timing of his sudden interest in his mother's welfare corresponds exactly with the announcement of her settlement." Riley opened the folder, scanning the documents. His partner leaned in, both of them reading in silence. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air heavier. "This is substantial," Riley said finally. "But I have to tell you, Mrs. Hartwell, elder financial exploitation cases are difficult to prosecute, and attempted murder based on a third-party conversation? That's even harder. I understand that, Detective. But I wanted you to know the context before my son convinces you that I'm a delusional old woman." Liang spoke for the first time. "Mrs. Hartwell, have you had any psychiatric evaluation recently? Any diagnosis of cognitive decline, dementia, anything that might affect your perception of events?" "No. I'm 64, physically healthy, and mentally sharp. My son wants to convince people otherwise because it serves his financial interests." "Have you threatened him in any way?" "I told him that if he continues trying to have me declared incompetent or access my settlement, I would report his attempted murder plot to the police. He apparently interpreted that as a threat." Riley closed the folder. "Here's where we stand. What you've described is concerning, but it's not enough for criminal charges. Not yet. We'd need concrete evidence, recordings, witnesses to actual attempts, something more than conversations and circumstantial financial records." My stomach sank. "So you're saying there's nothing you can do?" "I'm saying we'll open an investigation. We'll interview Captain Price. We'll look into your son's finances. We'll document everything. But Mrs. Hartwell, you need to understand, unless Derek actually does something, we can't arrest him for planning. So I have to wait until he tries again?" "No," Liang said firmly. "You protect yourself. Restraining order if necessary. Security systems. You don't put yourself in vulnerable positions." She paused. "And you document everything. Every interaction, every threat, every attempt to access your finances or undermine your competency. Build a paper trail so solid that if he makes another move, we have enough to act." We left the station an hour later with nothing resolved, but at least not arrested myself. Martin drove me home in silence, both of us processing what had happened. "They believe you," Martin said finally. "That's something. Riley and Liang are good cops. They'll investigate properly, but not fast enough to stop Derek before he tries something else. Probably not." He pulled up to my house. "Joanna, I think you should consider relocating temporarily. A hotel maybe, or running won't solve this. It'll just delay it." I gathered my purse. "And it makes me look guilty, unstable. No, I stay in my home. I build my evidence. And I wait." "You're sure?" I thought about my conversation with Derek, the cold finality in his eyes when he'd left. "He's not going to back down, Martin. We both know that. This ends one of two ways. Either I stop him or he succeeds. Then let's make sure it's the former." Inside my house, I checked the camera feeds. Everything looked normal. Too normal. The calm before the storm. My phone rang. Margot. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. "Hello? Joanna." Her voice was tight, angry. "We need to talk, now." "I don't think that's wise." "I don't care what you think is wise. Derek is at the lawyer's office trying to stop the foreclosure on our house. A house we're losing because you're being selfish and paranoid." "Selfish?" The word made me laugh, a harsh sound. "Margot, your husband tried to kill me." "That's ridiculous." Derek loves you. He's trying to help you, and you're repaying him by destroying our lives. Your lives are already destroyed. You and Derek did that yourselves with gambling and bad investments. I'm not your salvation. Your family. Her voice cracked with desperation. Family helps each other. You have $26 million. Money you don't need. Money you can't possibly spend in your lifetime. We need $200,000. That's barely 1% of what you have. And you're refusing out of spite? I'm refusing because your husband planned my murder. He didn't. You misunderstood. Or that captain lied. Or you're confused. Joanna, please, think about what you're doing. Derek is your only son. Your only family. If you lose him over this misunderstanding, you'll have no one. I'd rather have no one than be murdered by someone. Stop saying that. She was crying now, or doing a good impression of it. Stop accusing him of things he didn't do. You're going to destroy him, destroy us, and for what? Because you're scared of being alone? Because you resent that we have our whole lives ahead of us while you're old? I finished coldly. Is that what you were going to say? While I'm old and useless and should just hand over my money and disappear? Silence. Then quietly, I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. You and Derek both think I'm past my usefulness. An obstacle between you and money you feel entitled to. But here's what you don't understand, Margot. I earned every penny of that settlement by nearly dying. By spending 8 years fighting while people around me did die. That money is soaked in suffering, and I'll be damned if I hand it over to someone who thinks drowning me is an acceptable shortcut to wealth. Joanna. I hung up. My hands were shaking again. But not with fear. With rage. The phone rang immediately. Margot again. I declined the call. She called 4 more times before finally stopping. Then came the text messages. You're making a terrible mistake. Derek is devastated. How can you do this to your own son? We're losing everything because of your paranoia. You'll regret this when you're alone and dying and there's no one who cares. I blocked her number and Derek's. Then I sat in my kitchen, staring at nothing, feeling the weight of isolation pressing down on me. Roberta knocked on the back door 20 minutes later. I let her in gratefully. I saw Derek in Margot's car earlier, she said without preamble. Figured you might need company. How did you know it was bad? Because you look like you've been through a war. She set a bottle of wine on the counter. Talk to me. I told her about the police station, about Margot's call, about the feeling that I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. Roberta listened, pouring us each a glass of wine, her face growing increasingly grim. They're not going to stop, she said finally. You know that, right? They're too desperate. They'll keep pushing until something breaks. I know. So we make sure it's them that breaks, not you. She pulled out her phone. Tommy can set up more than just cameras. He can monitor your credit, your bank accounts, set up alerts for any suspicious activity. If Derek tries to access your finances fraudulently, we'll know immediately. Martin's already got protections on the settlement account. What about your other accounts? Your credit cards, your savings, your retirement funds? Derek knows your social security number, your mother's maiden name, all the typical security questions. He could try to access things while making it look like you're confused about your own transactions. The thought hadn't occurred to me, and it should have. Derek was thorough. If he couldn't get the settlement directly, he'd chip away at everything else. Call Tommy, I said. Tell him I need every protection he can set up. Roberta was already dialing. As she spoke to her grandson, I opened my laptop and checked my bank accounts. Everything looked normal, but normal didn't mean safe. An email notification popped up from Derek's lawyer, Charles Whitmore. Mrs. Hartwell, I represent your son, Derek Hartwell, in matters concerning his welfare and financial security. It has come to my attention that you have made serious and defamatory allegations against my client, including accusations of attempted murder. These allegations are not only false, but potentially actionable as libel and slander. I am writing to demand that you cease and desist all such accusations immediately. Furthermore, my client requests that you agree to undergo an independent psychiatric evaluation to assess your competency, as your recent behavior suggests possible cognitive decline or mental instability. Failure to comply with these reasonable requests will leave us no choice but to pursue legal action, including but not limited to a lawsuit for defamation and an emergency petition for guardianship. We will also be compelled to contact the Massachusetts Department of Elder Affairs regarding concerns about your ability to manage your own affairs. Please have your attorney contact me within 48 hours to arrange the evaluation and discuss resolution of these matters. I read it twice, feeling my blood pressure rise. It was a masterpiece of legal intimidation, veiled threats wrapped in professional language. Comply or face consequences. Submit or be destroyed. I forwarded it to Martin with a simple message. They're escalating. His response came within minutes. Don't respond. I'll handle Whitmore. In the meantime, consider the restraining order. This is getting dangerous. But before I could reply, another notification appeared, this time from my bank. A large withdrawal attempt on my savings account. $7,000. The transaction was flagged as suspicious and automatically blocked, but the attempt had been made. Someone had tried to access my account. I called Martin immediately. Someone just tried to withdraw $7,000 from my savings. The bank blocked it, but change all your passwords. Now. Every account. Every login. Use random strings. Nothing Derek could guess. His voice was sharp with urgency. Then call the bank, report identity theft, freeze everything non-essential. Joanna, he's not waiting for legal proceedings. He's trying to bleed you dry right now. I spent the next 2 hours on the phone with banks, credit agencies, and account managers. Every conversation was exhausting. Every security question a reminder of how vulnerable I'd become. By the time I finished, my head was pounding and my eyes burned with fatigue. Roberta had stayed through it all, making tea, answering my door when Tommy arrived with additional security equipment. By 9 p.m., my house was a fortress. Cameras, motion sensors, alerts on every account, and Tommy's promise to monitor everything remotely. You're safe here, Tommy said as he packed up his equipment. Or as safe as we can make you. If Derek or Margot try anything, physically or digitally, we'll know. After they left, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by technology designed to protect me from my own son. The house was quiet except for the hum of electronics and the occasional car passing outside. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You can't hide forever. We need that money. One way or another, we're getting it. Stop being stubborn. Another number, another message. Last chance, Mom. Make this right, or you'll regret it. I stared at the threats, these digital knives being thrown from the shadows. Derek was using burner phones now, untraceable numbers. The facade of the concerned son was gone completely. I forwarded the messages to Detective Riley and Martin, adding to the growing pile of evidence. Each piece was another brick in the wall of proof I was building. But walls took time to construct, and Derek was running out of patience. The question wasn't whether he would strike again. It was when, and whether I'd be ready when he did. The call came at 2 a.m, 3 days after the threatening texts. I jolted awake to my phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand, heart hammering before I was fully conscious. Unknown number. I almost declined, but something made me answer. Mom? Derek's voice, but different, slurred, desperate. Mom, I need help. I sat up, instantly alert. Derek? There's been an accident. Margot, she's hurt. We're at the house, but I can't. Mom, please. I know things have been bad, but she needs an ambulance and I can't think straight. Please. Every instinct screamed trap. But what if it wasn't? What if Margot was actually hurt? Call 911, Derek. I did, but they're saying 20 minutes. Mom, she's bleeding. I need help now. You're a nurse. You know what to do. Please. I'm begging you. I closed my eyes, thinking fast. Put me on speaker. Let me hear her. A rustling sound. Then Margot's voice, weak and frightened. Joanna? I fell down the stairs. My head. There's so much blood. Please help me. It sounded real. Too real. But Derek was an actor when he needed to be, and Margot was desperate enough to play any role. I'm calling an ambulance from here, I said. Give me your exact address. They're already coming. Mom, please. Just, we need you here. Family helps family, remember? Whatever's happened between us, you wouldn't let Margot die, would you? The manipulation was transparent, but underneath it was a kernel of truth. Despite everything, could I live with myself if I refused and someone actually died? I'll call Roberta, I said. She can come with me. No, no one else, just you. Please, Mom, I'm scared and I need my mother. There it was. The request for me to come alone. The trap revealing itself. Derek, if Margot is really hurt, you won't care if I bring someone. Fine, fine. Bring whoever you want. Just hurry. He hung up. I sat in the darkness, phone in hand, weighing options. This was almost certainly a setup, but almost wasn't definitely, and that uncertainty was designed to manipulate me into compliance. I called 911 first, reporting a possible injury at Derek's address. Then Martin. Joanna, it's 2 a.m. Derek just called. Says Margot fell, is bleeding, wants me to come to their house alone. Martin was instantly awake. Don't go. It's obviously a trap. Probably. But I called an ambulance to verify. If she's really hurt and I do nothing, then she gets emergency care from professionals. You're not a practicing nurse anymore, and even if you were, you don't go into dangerous situations without backup. Papers rustled. I'm calling Detective Riley. Don't move until you hear from me. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Detective Riley. Mrs. Hartwell, we sent a unit to your son's address. There's no injured person. Margot answered the door, confused about why police were there. No blood? No fall? No emergency? My stomach went cold. So, it was a lie. Appears so. The officers are questioning them now about the false emergency call. Might be enough for a charge, though they'll probably claim miscommunication. He paused. Mrs. Hartwell, you need to consider that restraining order. Your son is escalating. After hanging up, I sat in bed, too wired to sleep. Derek had tried to lure me to his house at 2 a.m. with a fake emergency. What had he planned? Another accident? A forced commitment to a psychiatric facility? Something worse? At 6 a.m., exhausted but too anxious to rest, I made coffee and checked my security feeds. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then my doorbell rang. The camera showed a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-50s, professional attire, carrying a briefcase. I pressed the intercom. Can I help you? Mrs. Hartwell? I'm Dr. Sandra Yates, court-appointed psychiatric evaluator. Your son filed an emergency guardianship petition last night, citing immediate concerns for your safety. I'm here to conduct the mandatory evaluation. My blood turned to ice. I didn't receive any court notice. Emergency petitions can be filed ex parte under certain circumstances. The judge granted a temporary order pending evaluation. If you refuse to cooperate, the court may issue a bench warrant. I need to call my lawyer. That's your right, but the evaluation must happen today. If you're not available, I'll have to report non-compliance to the judge. I stepped back from the door, mind racing. This was it. Derek's endgame. He'd tried to lure me out, and when that failed, he'd gone to court with an emergency petition. If I refused the evaluation, I looked uncooperative, mentally unstable. If I submitted, Dr. Yates would be looking for any excuse to declare me incompetent. I called Martin. There's a court-appointed psychiatrist at my door. Emergency guardianship petition. Don't let her in. I'm checking the court records right now. Keys clicked frantically. Joanna, there's no emergency petition filed in Suffolk County. Nothing in Middlesex either. This is fake. What? Whoever she is, she's not court-appointed. Call the police. Now. I pressed the intercom again. Dr. Yates, I need to see your credentials. Court order, identification, everything. Please hold them up to the camera. The woman's professional demeanor cracked slightly. Mrs. Hartwell, this is highly irregular. So is showing up at someone's door at 6 a.m. Show me the documentation or leave my property. She hesitated, then reached into her briefcase. But instead of pulling out papers, she glanced over her shoulder, as if checking for someone. That's when I saw it. Derek's Mercedes parked 2 houses down, barely visible in the early morning shadows. I'm calling the police, I said into the intercom. Leave now, or wait and explain to them why you're impersonating a court official. Dr. Yates, or whoever she was, backed away quickly, hurrying to a sedan parked on the street. She drove off fast, and moments later, Derek's Mercedes pulled away too. My hands shook as I called Detective Riley. They just tried to get into my house with a fake psychiatrist. Within an hour, my living room was full of people. Riley, Liang, Martin, and a tech specialist examining my doorbell camera footage. Roberta sat beside me, her presence grounding me as I recounted everything. "This is conspiracy to commit fraud at minimum," Riley said, watching the footage. "Possibly attempted kidnapping if their intent was to forcibly remove you for evaluation. We've got the woman's face, the car's plates. This is actionable, Mrs. Hartwell. Can you arrest Derek? We need to find the woman first, get her statement. But yes, I think we have enough now to bring him in for questioning." He looked at me seriously. "And I think it's time to move forward with that restraining order. Formally. Let's make this official." The next few hours were a blur of paperwork and statements. By noon, an emergency restraining order was in place. Derek and Margot had to stay at least 500 feet from me, my home, and my attorney's office. Violation meant immediate arrest. But restraining orders were just paper. They didn't stop desperate people. That evening, as darkness fell and Roberta returned home, I sat in my house surrounded by cameras and locks and security systems, and felt more vulnerable than ever. My phone rang. "Martin. Joanna, Derek's lawyer Whitmore just contacted me. They want to meet, neutral location, both attorneys present. Derek says he's willing to negotiate." "Negotiate what?" "An end to hostilities. He'll drop the guardianship petition, leave you alone, in exchange for—" Martin hesitated. "In exchange for $200,000. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "He's trying to blackmail me into paying his debts." "Essentially, yes. But Joanna, from a practical standpoint, $200,000 is a tiny fraction of your settlement. If it ends this nightmare, if it gets him out of your life permanently with a signed agreement, it rewards attempted murder. It buys you peace." I sat with that. $200,000. Less than 1% of my settlement, as Margot had pointed out. The price of making this nightmare end. The cost of buying my son out of my life. "What do you think I should do?" "I think," Martin said carefully, "that you should meet with them. Hear the full offer. We'd draft ironclad agreements. Non-disclosure, no future claims against your estate, complete severance of parental relationship if that's what you want. And Joanna, we'd have the meeting recorded, transcribed, legally documented. Anything he says is evidence. You think he'll incriminate himself? I think he's desperate enough to say things he shouldn't. And I think having this conversation with witnesses and recordings might be the final piece we need." "Where?" Whitmore suggested his office, day after tomorrow. 2 p.m., neutral ground, security present, everything above board. I thought about Derek's face on the yacht, his cold calculation. I thought about the fake doctor at my door, the attempted theft from my account, the threatening texts. I thought about my son, who I'd raised and loved, who'd become someone I didn't recognize. "Set it up," I said. "But Martin, I want Detective Riley to know about this meeting. I want police nearby just in case. Already planned on it. 2 days. 2 days to prepare for a confrontation that would either end this nightmare or escalate it beyond repair. I spent those days reviewing everything. All the evidence, all the recordings, all the patterns of manipulation and attempted theft. I rehearsed what I'd say, how I'd respond, how I'd remain calm when facing the son who'd tried to kill me. Roberta helped me choose an outfit. Professional but not vulnerable. Authoritative but not aggressive. "You need to look like someone who cannot be intimidated," she said. "Like someone who's already won." The morning of the meeting, I woke early and stood in my bedroom, looking at myself in the mirror. 64 years old. Gray hair I'd stopped coloring after Robert died. Lines around my eyes from 40 years of nursing shifts. Hands that had held dying patients, delivered babies, fought pharmaceutical companies in court. I looked like someone who'd survived. That would have to be enough. Martin picked me up at 1:30. The drive to Whitmore's office in downtown Boston was quiet, both of us lost in our own thoughts. Whatever happens, Martin said as we parked. Remember, you're in control here. Not Derek, not Whitmore. You. You have all the power in this situation, even if they try to make you feel otherwise. And if they threaten me, then we have them on record threatening you, which strengthens our case. He squeezed my shoulder. Joanna, you've got this. You're the smartest, strongest person in that room. Don't let them forget it. Whitmore's office was on the 15th floor of a glass tower overlooking the harbor. Expensive, prestigious, designed to intimidate. The receptionist directed us to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows and a table that could seat 20. Derek and Margot were already there, sitting on one side with Whitmore, a silver-haired man in his 60s who radiated expensive competence. They all stood when we entered. Derek looked terrible, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes, his expensive suit hanging loose on his frame. Margot wore too much makeup, probably covering stress-related breakouts. They looked like people circling the drain. Good. Joanna, Whitmore began, his voice smooth and practiced. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I think we can resolve this unfortunate situation in a way that benefits everyone. Unfortunate situation, I repeated. Is that what we're calling attempted murder now? Derek flinched. Whitmore's expression didn't change. My client categorically denies any such intention. However, he acknowledges that there have been misunderstandings and unfortunate communications that may have given you distress. He's prepared to offer a sincere apology and a path forward. I'm listening. Whitmore slid a document across the table. My client proposes a one-time payment of $200,000 to assist with immediate financial hardships. In exchange, you would sign an agreement acknowledging no harm was intended, retracting any accusations of criminal intent, and agreeing to no future legal action between parties. Additionally, both parties would agree to maintain distance and limited contact going forward. I picked up the document, scanning it. The legalese was dense, but the intent was clear. Derek would get his money. I would promise never to pursue criminal charges, and we'd pretend none of this had happened. And if I refuse? Derek leaned forward. Mom, please. We're losing everything. The house, the business, everything we've built. $200,000 is nothing to you, but it's our lives. I'm your son. Doesn't that mean anything? You tried to have me killed. I didn't. His voice cracked with what might have been genuine emotion. I swear I didn't. Yes, I was desperate. Yes, I said things I shouldn't have, but I never actually intended to hurt you. You have to believe me. Captain Price heard you discussing my drowning. I was venting. Angry, frustrated, saying horrible things I didn't mean. Have you never said something awful in a moment of stress that you didn't actually mean? I looked at him, really looked at him, searching for truth, for remorse, for any sign of the boy I'd raised. All I saw was a man who'd learned that tears and excuses could be tools just like threats and manipulation. You sent a fake doctor to my door. That was... He glanced at Whitmore, who made a subtle gesture. That was a private investigator I hired to verify your mental state. Not to hurt you, just to get information for the guardianship petition, which I filed out of genuine concern. Lying is easier than breathing for you now, isn't it? I kept my voice level, clinical. You called me at 2 a.m. claiming Margot was injured to lure me to your house. You tried to steal from my bank account. You sent threatening texts from burner phones. And now you sit here asking me to pay you for the privilege of having tried to destroy me. Mrs. Hartwell, Whitmore interjected. Emotions are running high. Perhaps we should all take a breath. I'm perfectly calm, Mr. Whitmore. And I have a counter-offer. Derek's eyes lit with hope. That almost broke my heart. You sign a complete confession to everything. The yacht plan, the attempted theft, the fake doctor, all of it. The confession goes to Detective Riley. Then you plead guilty to attempted fraud and conspiracy, accept whatever sentence the court deems appropriate. In exchange, I don't pursue attempted murder charges, which would carry much harsher penalties. The room went silent. Derek's face drained of color. You can't be serious, Margot breathed. Completely serious. You wanted a negotiation. That's my offer. Mom, I'd go to prison. I'd lose everything. You've already lost everything. This way, at least you pay for your crimes instead of profiting from them. Derek stood abruptly, the chair scraping. You vindictive, selfish. After everything I've done for you, after all the years I've been your son, you'd send me to prison? Over what? Mistakes? Desperate words? Over attempted murder. I never tried to kill you. He was shouting now, control finally snapping. Yes, I thought about it. Yes, I wished you'd have an accident so we could have the money. But I never actually did anything. Thinking isn't a crime. But conspiracy is, and fraud is, and attempted theft is. I stood, meeting his eyes. Derek, you stopped being my son the moment you decided my life was worth less than your debts. This meeting is over. Wait! Margot grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. Her fingers dug in desperately. Please, Joanna, we'll do anything. We'll disappear. We'll never contact you again. Just give us something. 50,000, 20,000, anything to keep us from losing the house. I gently removed her hand. You should have thought of that before you tried to have me killed. We didn't. We weren't. She was crying now, mascara running. Please, I'm begging you. Don't destroy us over a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was attempted murder. I looked at Derek one last time. And you're right about one thing. Families should help each other. But you're not my family anymore. You gave up that right the moment you chose money over my life. Martin and I walked out of the conference room, leaving behind the sound of Margot's sobbing and Derek's rage. In the elevator, I finally allowed myself to shake. That was incredible, Martin said quietly. Joanna, you were magnificent. I feel sick. That's because you're human, but you did the right thing. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor. Riley and Liang are waiting outside. I'm giving them the recordings from the meeting. Derek's confession that he wished for your death, the admission of the fake doctor, it's enough to prosecute. Outside, the afternoon sun was bright and warm. Detective Riley stood by an unmarked car, Detective Liang beside him. Mrs. Hartwell, Riley said. We heard the meeting didn't go well. On the contrary, Martin said, handing him a flash drive. It went perfectly. As Riley listened to Martin's summary of what had been said, I watched people walking past on the Boston sidewalk, business people and tourists, students and families. Normal people living normal lives, unburdened by sons who wanted them dead. We'll pick him up tomorrow, Riley said finally. Give him one night to think about his options. Sometimes that's enough to inspire cooperation. And if it's not? Riley's smile was grim. Then we arrest him and let the district attorney decide what charges fit. But Mrs. Hartwell, you've given us enough to put him away. Whatever happens now, you're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign, almost impossible to believe. But as Martin drove me home, past the familiar streets of Brookline, toward the house that was mine and mine alone, I felt something shift inside me. The fear that had gripped me for weeks began to loosen its hold. Derek could rage and threaten and manipulate, but he'd lost. He'd shown his true face in front of witnesses, confessed to his intentions, revealed himself as the person I'd feared he'd become, and I had survived. Not just survived, triumphed. The question now was what came next. Derek was arrested the following morning at 6 a.m. I know because Detective Riley called to inform me personally. They'd charged him with conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted identity theft, and solicitation to file false reports. The attempted murder charges were still under investigation, pending further evidence, but what they had was enough to hold him. Margot wasn't charged, yet, but Riley mentioned that her cooperation in the investigation might determine whether she faced prosecution as an accomplice or walked away with just the destruction of her marriage and finances. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. Roberta found me that afternoon sitting in my kitchen, staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. You're allowed to grieve, she said, sitting across from me. He's still your son, even if he's also a criminal. I keep thinking about when he was little, 7 years old maybe. He fell off his bike and skinned both knees. He was so brave about it, didn't cry until we got home. Then he sobbed in my arms while I cleaned the wounds. I traced the rim of the mug. Where did that boy go, Roberta? I don't know. Maybe he's still in there somewhere. Maybe he got buried under debt and desperation and bad choices. She squeezed my hand. But Joanna, that boy, the one you're mourning, he would be horrified by what the man became. You didn't fail him. He failed himself. I keep wondering if I'd given him the money. Then he'd have spent it and come back for more. You know that. People like Derek and Margot, they don't have a bottom. There's no amount that would have been enough. She was right, but the knowledge didn't ease the ache in my chest. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal proceedings. Martin helped me restructure my entire estate. The settlement money went into an irrevocable trust with professional management, distributions controlled by specific criteria I'd outlined. No single person could access it, not even me, without multiple approvals. It was fortress-level security, and it meant I'd never have to worry about someone trying to steal my future again. I also changed my will. Roberta's grandson Tommy was shocked to learn he'd been named as a partial beneficiary, along with several nursing charities and the other plaintiffs from the Mercor lawsuit who hadn't survived to see settlement. Derek's name was removed completely. In its place, a single line. I make no provision for my son, Derek Hartwell, this omission being intentional and not occasioned by accident or mistake. Legal language for, I haven't forgotten you, I've chosen to exclude you. Martin delivered the news to Derek's public defender. Whitmore had dropped him once the arrest became public. The response came back 3 days later. Derek wanted to see me. One conversation, supervised, at the county jail. You don't have to go, Martin said. You owe him nothing. I know, but I think I need to hear what he has to say. For closure, if nothing else. The Suffolk County Jail was a gray concrete building that smelled of disinfectant and desperation. I'd been in hospitals that felt more welcoming. A guard led me through security to a visitor's room with a plexiglass divider and phones on either side. Derek appeared in an orange jumpsuit, looking even thinner than at Whitmore's office. His eyes were sunken, haunted. He picked up the phone, and I picked up mine. Mom. Derek. We stared at each other through the plexiglass. I wondered what he saw, the mother he'd tried to manipulate, or the woman who'd outmaneuvered him at every turn. I'm sorry, he said finally. I know you don't believe me, but I am. Not just because I got caught, because of what I became, what I tried to do to you. Which part? The murder plot? The theft? The fake doctor? He flinched. All of it. Mom, I was drowning. The debt? The business? Margot's gambling? I couldn't see any way out. And then you won the settlement, and it seemed like the answer to everything. But you wouldn't help. And I got angry. I convinced myself you were being selfish, that you owed me something. And then the anger turned into, he swallowed hard, into something darker, into planning my death. I never actually intended to go through with it. His voice cracked. I swear, Mom, I thought about it, planned it, even discussed it. But when we were on that yacht, when you were standing there at the swimming platform, I couldn't do it. I was going to back out. Tell you I'd changed my mind about swimming. Captain Price heard you discussing how far offshore we'd need to be. I know, but that was before. Before I saw you in person. Before it became real. Mom, I'm not making excuses. What I thought about, what I planned, it's unforgivable. But I couldn't actually kill you. I couldn't go through with it. I sat with that, examining his face for truth. He seemed sincere, but Derek had always been good at seeming sincere. Even if that's true, I said slowly, you still tried everything else. The fake evaluation, the theft, the manipulation. You didn't stop, Derek. You just changed tactics. I know. He set the phone down for a moment, covering his face with his hands. When he picked it back up, his eyes were wet. I'm going to prison, aren't I? Probably. Martin says the DA is offering a plea deal. 5 years, possible parole in 3 if you cooperate fully and show genuine rehabilitation. 5 years? He laughed, hollow. I'll be 43 when I get out. Everything gone, career, marriage, home, everything. You did that to yourself. I know that, Mom. And I know you can't forgive me. I'm not asking you to. I wanted you to know that I remember who I used to be. That little boy who fell off his bike. He's still in here somewhere, buried under all the bad choices and desperation, and maybe 5 years will be enough time to find him again. Tears blurred my vision. I hope so, Derek. I really do. Will you be there? When I get out? The question hung between us. Impossible to answer. Could I forgive attempted murder? Could I welcome back a son who'd seen me as nothing more than an obstacle to money? I don't know, I said honestly. Ask me in 5 years. He nodded, accepting that. Mom, one more thing. The settlement money. I'm glad you protected it. I'm glad I can't touch it, that no one can manipulate you into giving it away. You earned that money with suffering. You deserve to use it however you want. Thank you. And Mom, I love you. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do. I always have. I know. My voice broke. That's what makes this so hard. The guard signaled that our time was up. Derek and I looked at each other one last time through the plexiglass. Mother and son, victim and perpetrator. Two people who'd once loved each other uncomplicated before money and desperation had poisoned everything. Goodbye, Derek. Goodbye, Mom. I walked out of the jail into bright afternoon sunshine, feeling lighter somehow. The conversation hadn't healed everything, but it had provided something I hadn't realized I needed. Acknowledgement. Derek had admitted what he'd done, shown some glimmer of remorse. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start toward closure. Martin was waiting in the parking lot. How did it go? Better than expected. Worse than I'd hoped. I climbed into his car. He took the plea deal? His lawyer will recommend it. 5 years is better than the 15 he could get if it goes to trial, and the DA pushes attempted murder charges. He pulled out of the parking lot. Joanna, I have some other news. Margot filed for divorce yesterday. She's also agreed to testify against Derek in exchange for immunity. I wasn't surprised. Margot had always been a survivor first, a wife second. What will happen to her? She'll lose the house in foreclosure, file for bankruptcy, probably move in with family. Her gambling addiction will need treatment if she wants any chance at recovery. But she won't go to prison. That seems fair. She was complicit, but Derek was the architect. My thoughts exactly. The next month brought a kind of peace I hadn't experienced in years. The legal proceedings continued. Derek's formal sentencing, the finalization of my estate restructuring, the distribution of the settlement into its various trust accounts. But I was no longer living in constant fear, no longer checking over my shoulder for the next attack. Roberta and I developed a routine. Tuesday afternoon tea, Thursday morning walks around the reservoir, weekend dinners where she'd cook Polish food, and I'd tell nursing stories from my younger days. Tommy and his wife Sarah became regular visitors, and I found myself becoming part of their family in ways that felt natural and uncomplicated. You know what I realized? Roberta said one Tuesday, pouring tea in my kitchen. You're happier now than you've been in years, even with everything that happened. Is that terrible? To be happier after my son went to prison? It's honest. Derek was poisoning your life long before he tried to poison you literally. You're allowed to feel relief that he's gone. She was right. The absence of constant manipulation, the freedom to make decisions without someone questioning my competency or trying to access my finances. It was liberating. I started volunteering at the Mercor support group, helping other plaintiffs navigate their settlements and avoid the pitfalls I'd encountered. Many were elderly, vulnerable to family members or financial predators who saw them as easy targets. I taught them about trusts, about security measures, about recognizing manipulation. My nursing skills found new purpose in protecting people who'd survived the same poisoning I had. You're good at this, said Eva Timmons, another plaintiff who'd become a friend. She was 71, sharp as ever, and had her own stories about family members suddenly appearing when her settlement came through. Teaching people to protect themselves. I learned the hard way. Might as well help others avoid my mistakes. What mistakes? You survived. You won. That's not a mistake. That's wisdom. Wisdom. The word settled into my bones like a benediction. 6 months after Derek's sentencing, I made a decision. I sold the Brookline house. Too many memories, too many ghosts, and bought a smaller condo in Cambridge near the river. It had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, a modern kitchen, and enough space for me without feeling empty. Roberta helped me move, along with Tommy and Sarah. As we unpacked boxes in the new space, Sarah asked, "Mrs. Hartwell, do you miss your old house?" "Not as much as I thought I would. That house was my past. My marriage to Robert, raising Derek, 40 years of nursing shifts coming home to the same walls. This place is my future, whatever that looks like." "What do you want it to look like?" Roberta asked, arranging books on a shelf. I looked out the window at the Charles River, sunlight dancing on the water. Runners and cyclists passed on the path below. Sailboats drifted in the distance. Life continuing, beautiful and ordinary. I want peace. I want purpose. I want to help people who need it and spend time with people who value me as more than a bank account. I smiled. And I want to finally take that trip to Ireland I've been planning for 20 years. Ireland? Roberta's eyes lit up. When? Next month. I've already booked the flight. Roberta laughed. Good for you. You've earned it. The Ireland trip was spectacular. Green hills and ancient castles, friendly people and incredible food. I stayed in small bed and breakfasts, talked to locals, took photographs that I'd actually print and frame. For 2 weeks, I was just Joanna Hartwell, retired nurse, traveler, woman who'd survived poisoning and legal warfare and family betrayal to claim her life back. When I returned home, there was a letter waiting. Prison postmark, Derek's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won out. "Mom, I'm 3 months into my sentence. It's hard, but I'm managing. I've started therapy, real therapy, not just the mandated stuff. Dr. Rodriguez is helping me understand how I got to the point where I could consider hurting you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve the chance to earn it back someday. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying to become someone better. Someone who would make that 7-year-old boy with the skinned knees proud. Margot and I are divorced. She testified against me, which hurt at first. But I understand now that our relationship was toxic from the start. We enabled each other's worst impulses. I hope you're doing well. I hope the settlement money is giving you the life you deserve. And Mom, I hope someday, maybe years from now, you'll be able to look at me and see your son again instead of the person who tried to destroy you. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'm trying. Derek." I read the letter 3 times, then filed it away in a drawer. I didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I kept it, and that felt significant. Roberta found me staring out at the river that evening. "You okay?" "Derek wrote me from prison, says he's in therapy trying to change." "Do you believe him?" "I don't know. Maybe. But it doesn't change anything right now. He's in prison. I'm free. And I've built a life that doesn't revolve around managing his crises or protecting myself from his schemes. That's growth." Roberta settled beside me on the couch. "You know what strikes me about this whole situation? You could have been destroyed by it. Lots of people would have been. The betrayal, the violence, the manipulation. But you turned it into strength. You're thriving, Joanna." She was right. At 65, I was healthier, happier, and more purposeful than I'd been in decades. The settlement money sat in trusts, professionally managed, generating income I used for volunteering, traveling, and helping others. The house, my new house, was mine alone, secured and protected. My days were full of meaningful work and genuine friendships. Derek had tried to take everything from me. Instead, he'd inadvertently given me permission to claim my life completely. That evening, I stood at my window watching sunset paint the Charles River gold and crimson. Behind me was a home I'd chosen, filled with things I loved, earned through survival and wisdom. Ahead was a future I'd define on my own terms. I thought about the yacht, about standing on that swimming platform with Derek's hand on my back and the ocean stretching endlessly below. How close I'd come to disappearing beneath those waves, becoming just another tragic accident. But I hadn't disappeared. I'd survived. I'd outsmarted the trap, gathered evidence, built alliances, and fought with intelligence instead of force. I'd proven that age wasn't weakness. It was accumulated wisdom. That being underestimated was an advantage. That patience and careful planning defeated desperation and violence every time. The settlement money wasn't a curse. It was a tool, and I'd learned to wield it wisely. My son was in prison. My marriage was long over. My career was behind me. By many measures, I should have felt diminished, isolated, reduced. Instead, I felt expansive. I picked up my phone and texted Roberta. "Dinner this week? My treat. I'm thinking of planning another trip. Maybe Scotland this time. Wanna come?" Her response came immediately. "Scotland sounds perfect. And yes to dinner. You're buying, rich lady." I laughed out loud, the sound echoing in my beautiful, safe, chosen home. The depths below had tried to claim me. But I'd learned to swim long ago, and the surface, bright with possibility, warm with genuine love, solid with hard-won security, was exactly where I belonged. At 65, I was finally, completely, undeniably free, and that freedom tasted like victory. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you.